What's going on, YouTube family? Today we're going to be talking about how to get approved for an auto loan when you have bad credit. Now, this topic has been blowing up in my inbox as well as my comment section, so I figured I'd make a video addressing all these things and let you guys know exactly what banks are looking for, what dealerships are looking for, but more importantly, what credit bureaus are looking at. So with all that being said, I am going to be brutally honest and tell you the truth of exactly what to do. And unfortunately, a lot of you guys are smoking crack thinking you're going to buy G-Wagons with a 300 credit score and 500 bucks down. Those days are gone. It's never going to happen. So let's go ahead in the first part. I know you guys like me using props, so today we're using Batman to represent the individual that's buying the car. We have the Mercedes that's going to represent the vehicle that they're purchasing, and the money that's going to represent their financials and their credit history. So first we're going to start off with the individual. Now, before I even start looking at cars, I tell everybody, if you have a few bucks, always buy a cheap cash car first. Don't even worry about financing. Use that money to actually build and fix your credit, which I'll give you some credit tips here at the end. But if for some reason you still want to finance a car, you need to figure out, do I even qualify for this? Because remember, banks have been lending extremely crazy over the last few years, and they're all about mitigating their risks. So they're going to want everything up front. First thing is bank statements, pay stubs, proof of income. You need to have verifiable pay stubs and bank statements in order to get approved. Dealerships like myself, we have Plaid, banks do as well. So if I run your pay stubs or your actual bank statements and I see that that's fake or the money's not coming in on a regular basis, it'll let me know. So if you have both those things, you're at least off to a good start. Next is proof of residency. This is very important. They want to make sure you have stable residence, that you've been in the state for a while. If you just moved somewhere, more than likely it's going to be harder to get approved. Also, they're going to check this with LexisNexis. If I run you and it shows that you've never paid a power bill in this county and you haven't paid your taxes, more than likely you are too much of a risk to get an auto loan. This is how crazy it's going to start getting now that banks have had so many defaults. They're going to get really strict with lending. So with all these things being said, you need to make sure you come with your A game and all these documents ready to go before you even look at a car. Now we got that out of the way, let's start looking at cars. Now, you guys need to stop smoking crack and come back down to reality. What I mean by this is you need to buy a very basic car. If you have bad credit, you can't be choosy. You can't want a Mercedes or BMW because every vehicle has what's called a risk emblem. So the higher the risk emblem is, the lower the chances of you getting approved. So like Mercedes, BMW, Cadillac, Lexuses, Audis, Infiniti, stuff like that. These vehicles have a higher risk emblem because they cost more money to insure, they cost more money to repair, and overall they just cost more money. So all those things mean bigger chances of defaulting. So banks do not want to lend this. My advice, look for a cheap, affordable American, Japanese, or Korean vehicle. I would even stay away from Volkswagens. Just look for those particular vehicles and make sure you stay under a certain dollar amount. Now, let's just say you've had a repo in the past and you're trying to rebuild your credit. If your last repo was $25,000, unfortunately, I have bad news for you. You cannot buy anything over $25,000. You need to buy something that's probably $22,000 and below because nobody wants to give you a bigger auto loan with proof saying that you defaulted on the last one. It's very important. On top of that, if you have a fresh repo, 9 times out of 10, banks will not give you any type of financing unless the account is over a year old. Unfortunately, this is just the way it goes, but these are some of the things you need to do. Also, banks are always looking at certain things, and this is where you need to talk to the dealership as well as ask them what banks are looking for what, because some banks want you to have maybe a 2015 or newer. Some banks want you to have maybe under 80,000 miles. Some banks may only like American cars or Japanese cars. So the more you can learn about that from your dealerships and your banks, it'll kind of put you in an area where you can actually pick out specific cars to increase your odds of getting approved. Nothing kills me more than when I hear people like, oh, I got approved for a $25,000 Malibu, but I turned it down because I wanted this $15,000 Mercedes and they told me they couldn't get me approved. Why? This is less money. That's why. It's because the risk. The bank doesn't want to give you, $15,000 on a used Mercedes with a bunch of miles. They'd rather give you a Malibu because it's less likely to break down. And then whenever they have to repo it, it's newer, less miles. It should give them more money to get back when they have to repo it. Where a Mercedes, if you don't take care of it, this thing's going to fall apart and the maintenance costs are just going to be absolutely astronomical. Now, when it comes to vehicles, you also want to do some preliminary insurance checks. I've seen so many deals blow up in people's faces because, oh, I can afford this car. I can afford it. I can do it. Don't go out there and try to buy something crazy expensive because I had a friend of mine that bought a BMW convertible. I think his payment was like $600 and something a month, but his insurance payment was also $600 a month for full coverage. So you need to know these things before you even start looking at these cars because you'll be shocked at how crazy full coverage insurance is, especially in what state you're in, because I've seen more deals being killed. And on top of that, these banks, if you do not have insurance, In some states, they will come and they repo the car and they won't even tell you anything. They'll just come get it. Some states, they'll add on thousands of dollars to the end of your loan for coverage for insurance for the bank. Not you, just the bank, if you happen to get crashed or the car gets stolen. Now, next, let's talk about LTV. Now, LTV is loan to value. This is a very big thing that's going to come in with finances, yourself, and the vehicle. Now, if you have bad credit, I hate to be the bearer of bad news, you need to come to this deal with money. You're going to have to put 20 to 35% down minimum to get this deal done, because the days of people with crappy credit trying to buy cars they can't afford are over. So if you don't have a big chunk of money to put down on one of these cars, even a regular basic economy car, don't waste your time. They're going to tell you to go kick rocks, or they're going to make you stick on an even cheaper car. Now, I know this is hard to hear for a lot of people. And on top of that, I tell people, you know, the lower the risk you give, the higher odds are approval. You can get a nicer car, a more expensive car. That's just going to require you to put a bigger chunk of money down. And if you have it, you can do it. But more than likely, you know, I'd like for you to do something else with your finances. This is where the finances comes in. Instead of you dropping, let's say this car is $40,000 and you're coming up with like $15,000 to put down on it, I'd rather have you use that money a little bit more smartly and actually fix your credit. Let's take $5,000 and buy, you know, a cheap car. You know, I don't know if you guys have seen it on my Instagram, but even between like my 6x6 and the other cars, I literally drive a smart car every day around Vegas. It's hilarious. I don't care. I bought it for $4,000. It's a fun car to drive. If I can do it, you can do it. So let's just take $4,000 or $5,000, buy a cash car, and get us by in the meantime. Now let's take $1,000 of that, go to Capital One. Let's get a secured credit card. That's very important. Next, we're going to go to Discovery. We're going to get another $1,000 credit card. Then we're going to go to your local credit union. We're going to go to them and ask them for a $1,000 credit card as well. Give them $1,000. Your local state banks, same thing. Find a local state bank, build a relationship with them, get another $1,000 credit card. The reason why I'm doing so many of these is because if you have enough secured credit cards, your score will jump up even faster. Also, a lot of these banks offer pledge loans. What that means is if you have $1,000, you can give it to them and they'll let you borrow money against it. So now you have revolving credit and a fixed payment. So it's like a personal loan. So you have two types of credit with 6 different accounts hitting your accounts all at the same time. After that, there's lots of other ones. You can take the title that you just bought for your $5,000 car. You can give that to them and get a loan against that as a collateralized loan. They'll give you your money back and you can buy more secured trade lines or get maybe a bigger pledge line from your bank. You know, you can buy a CD. Let's say it's a $3,000 CD. You can buy it, borrow against it. There's tons of ways to build your credit. Now, we still have money left. You could pay an outside party to actually fix your credit, but there are so many people on YouTube as well as companies that will literally sell you templates on how to send these things to credit bureaus to challenge to get stuff off of your credit. I've done it myself. It's not that hard. It takes a little bit of time, but if you do this within 90 days, you'd be surprised on how fast and dramatically your credit changes. Now, if you wait 90 days, not only are you going to have much better credit, but you're going to get a lot of this money back because these are secure credit cards. So in even, let's say 6 months, you get half of this money back. And now you have maybe a 650 to 700 credit score. You have some sort of positive movement on your credit bureaus. So you can show the banks, hey, look, I'm a good steward of credit. I pay my bills. You know, I know we're going to give me like a $30,000 car, but with all this being said, can I get a $45,000 car and I only put 5% down instead of the 25% that you required last time? More than likely, they will do that. And on top of that, since you've built relationships with all these credit unions, local banks, state banks, somebody there will probably help you out as well. Now, if you do this correctly, you could set yourself up for long-term success because I hate to say this, I'm going to tell you a really bad story, and this is what dealers deal with every single year. Now, you guys know tax season, right? So tax season, every year, we get people with their tax returns coming in to buy cars. Now, what if I told you that 60% of the people I sold cars to every single year? Now, you would think, wow, Lucky, they must be loyal customers. No, it's because the cars that I gave them, they purchased with their $5,000 to $8,000 tax returns. Instead of buying cash cars, they would finance a $15,000 to $30,000 car and they would get it repoed. And then they'd have to wait a year for the repo to fall off and they'd be right back there next tax season with their chunk of money trying to buy another car from me. This is exactly the problem with bad credit mentality. I was part of it too. I've had 3 or 4 auto loans where I was paying 29% interest on my auto loans, which was absolutely crazy. But I had to do it because you have to pay for your credit. So that's why I tell everybody it's much cheaper to take that money, get a few secured credit cards, and get a few pledge loans from different places and borrow against CDs or borrow against securities, and you could build your credit extremely fast. If I would have known this years ago, I spent I'm not even joking. I've probably spent about maybe $30,000 fixing and building credit. Back in the day, I did the trade line thing. I used to pay people to put trade lines on my credit. Waste of time. Didn't work. I know a lot of you guys like these CPNs. CPNs don't work. Like I said, we run LexisNexis. I can tell you if it's a real number or not, or if it's tied to somebody else. So those things don't even work anymore. So all the scamming and credit hacks and stuff that people used to think that works don't work anymore, because now it's not an automated system. And this is the catch. This is what people don't understand. During the pandemic and over the last 7 years, when you had a 650 or 620 credit score and above, a lot of this stuff was automated. So you could have a Macy's card with $500, but if you've made every payment and you're a 700 credit score, I can give you an instant approval, and there's no track record. Where today, it doesn't matter if you have an 800 credit score. If you don't have a track record of showing that you have multiple major loans paid off and you have a history of personal loans and other things to show that you can afford this debt, they're not going to do it, because everything is being looked at by a human being. Perfect example of this is my buddy Ralph. Shout out if you're watching. So he's only had a $25,000 Honda Accord in his life. He bought it when he got out of college, paid it off. During the pandemic, he got a wild hair up his ass, decided to buy a Lamborghini Urus. He went to Ally. Ally auto-approved him for a $238,000 loan. That would have never happened 10 years ago or happened today. But he was in that sweet spot where banks were just lending, they didn't care. So now he's got a loan that he could barely afford, and it was just 100% automated. Where traditionally, you can go back and see some of my videos for 3-4 years ago. I would explain to people how to buy exotic cars. You had to buy a $60,000 car to build up to an $80,000 car, $80,000 car to build up to a $100,000 car, $100,000 car to build up to $150,000 and $250,000 and blah, 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 blah. It took me years to be able to buy exotic cars. But then all of a sudden during the pandemic, all these clowns started buying them. So the mystique went away. That's why you saw these YouTube gurus driving Lamborghinis and Ferraris. That's why a lot of us, I'll be honest with you, the thrill of buying a Lamborghini is gone, because every douchebag on YouTube has one. So I'd rather build my 6x6. But at the same point, it's like, it just shows that once it became readily accessible for everybody, it just ruined it. It's no longer something that people strive for. It's all these fake gurus that were getting them, the watches, all that stuff. And so now that the credit has gone back to the way it is, banks are having serious underwriting. Everything is being touched by a human being. You're going to need to come with your A game and all the documentation that supports it, that shows that you are a good steward of credit, you have the ability to pay back, and you're not at risk. I know this sounds funny, and a lot of people say, oh, well, there's tricks and everything else. You can't trick your credit report. And I hate to say this, everybody earns their credit report. If you have a 300 credit score, guess what? You earned every point of that. If you have an 800 credit score, you earned every point of that. And unfortunately, I've been on both ends of the spectrum. I've had really good credit and I've had really shitty credit. And the worst thing is when I had no credit, nobody would even lend to me. So that's why I tell everybody, go get secured credit cards, start building your credit. And even right now, if you don't know what you want to do and you have a few bucks, go get a $500 secured credit card. The more trade lines you put on there, the faster you build your credit, the better off you are. Because the one thing I've learned through all these ups and downs, because in the early 2000s, credit went crazy, and then it dropped in 2008, and then it became important again, and then now here we are in the third term. So just in my lifetime, I've seen credit go up and down 4 or 5 times where it's critically important. You always want to have your credit built, because you never know what's going to happen, especially if, let's say, the market does crash, because I do have friends that believe that the real estate market is going to dip a little bit. They're all waiting on the sidelines with cash and credit ready. Same thing with me. I'm waiting for a lot of these classic cars to come up for sale that are going to be available. I already have financing lined up, so if that does come through, I can go purchase these cars. So if you do it right, you can get the cars, you can build your credit, and you can do something long term. So try to think long term. I know you want to drive a Mercedes today, but just build your credit, plan for tomorrow, and do these little things, and I promise you, you'll have a much brighter future. But anyways, I'd like to thank you guys so much for watching. Hopefully this was a more positive video. If you have any questions, please put comment section below. Make sure to follow me on Instagram @LuckyLopez, and we'll see you next video.